Hey, it's Alex Tsushiyama, back with the next 5 battles from the Pokemon Global Link 2013 Winter Friendly Tournament. Now, at this point I was doing pretty well. 3 wins, 2 losses. But still getting tripped up by legendaries. Still getting tripped up by, especially Uber legendaries. But this is a team that normally, under normal circumstances, if I hadn't been stupid, I'd have won against, probably. But as will be seen in just a little bit, I am stupid. So another generic male trainer. Go out with my trifecta that of special attack, physical attack, and defensive wall. And he leads with his Arcanine, which has Intimidate. Get on the Espeon. Now, I'm expecting a dark type attack or a fake out from the Weavile, so I switched to Melodic. Or rather, I think I switched Melodic to Surf, whatever he does, but I wasn't expecting a fake out. But yeah. So he switches to his Jolteon. I go to Scizor. Jolteon has Protect. It protects itself. I go for Bullet Punch, trying to hit the Weavile and knock it out, but that doesn't work. So I instead switch to Espeon to try to take out the Jolteon, and that doesn't work too well for me. Night Slash is going to take it out. Once again, that was me being stupid. So I go to that Staraptor, get the Intimidate off on Weavile. And then I decide to go to Melodic to Surf, I think. But Jolteon uses an Electric Gem boosted Thunderbolt that faints Melodic in one hit because of critical. I probably would have lived that with about 25 to 50% health remaining if it hadn't been a critical hit, but oh well. So now I'm down to 2 Pokemon against his 4. Because I'm an idiot. So I go to further return, hoping to get something knocked out, because it'll hit neutral damage. And it takes Arcanine down to about 25%. It goes for the Flare Blitz, takes Staraptor out. Doesn't do quite enough recoil to take Arcanine out. Well, no, it does. But I'm left with Scizor against a Gallade, Jolteon, and Weavile. And I'm locked into Bullet Punch. So I Bullet Punch Jolteon, because that's what he switches to. And it deals almost half resist. Goes for the Thunderbolt. Takes me down to about half, and I already see where this is going to go. Without a critical, I'm not going to faint a Jolteon. It just barely hangs on. Thunderbolt dealt slightly more than half, 50%, so Scizor's going to faint. Lost this match 3-0 because I'm an idiot. Or 0-3. Whatever. Well, the next match, however, is a breath of fresh air compared to that, because got 3 legendaries and 2 Ubers, an OU, and whatever tier Golem is. I think it's UU or lower. But instead of Melodic this time, I'm going for Bronzong for dual screen support. He leads with his Palkia and has Mewtwo and Thundurus and waiting in the wings. So he switches to Mewtwo to do the obvious Shadow Ball. I go for Bronzong to set up Light Screen against the obvious special attack-based team. And I take the Shadow Ball pretty well. Light Screen ensures I'm going to be taking a lot of other things pretty well. And then I make a mistake with Bronzong. Instead of setting up the Reflect, like I should have, I instead go for the Gyro Ball. And he gets a critical hit and the defense drop on Bronze. But I go for Gyro Ball. No discernible beat. Now onto against Thunderous, I use Shadow Ball, so hit whatever he's got either for neutral or super effective. It almost takes Thunderous out. He goes to the Crunch, which I believe does fade Espeon because I didn't get Reflect up. Or, no, it almost takes Espeon out. But this time I go for Shadow Ball, which almost takes Mewtwo out, and almost takes myself out with Life Orb Recoil, but he goes for his own Shadow Ball, and takes Espeon out. Kind of sad. Oh well. So now I go into my Gengar. So, go for the Thunderbolt because it's going to deal neutral damage to anything. Take out the Mewtwo. And I get to see that the fourth Pokemon he brought was his Golem, which is shiny. So I go for Shadow Ball, which once again will deal neutral damage to anything, and to Stab, so it'll do more than neutral, or something like that. But he decides to speed his Golem up with Rock Punch. That's not a thing I want to see being able to do things. So I switch to Scizor to hit it off the pass and Bullet Punch it before it can outspeed anything I've got. Luckily it takes it out, because Golem have relatively high defense. He goes to his Thundurus, and I decide to stay in Bullet Punch because he'll take Thundurus out from that range. And he's not likely to try to go to his Palkia for whatever reason. It takes Thundurus out, Light Screen wears off, and all that he has left is Palkia. I go back to Bronzong, I believe to set up Light Screen again, but... Or no, I tried to Gyro Ball for no good reason. But he does the Spatial Rend, deals quite a bit of damage. I Gyro Ball for almost no damage. And Surf will finish Bronzong. Yeah. So it forces me to switch to Gengar, and I decided to stick with that, and Toxic is Palkia, with the reasoning that I'm probably not going to live a Spatial Rend. Now, most people aren't going to expect Toxic off of a special base Gengar, but surprisingly I lived the Spatial Rend with just a sliver of health remaining, which is enough to get a Staff Shadow Ball off. It takes it down pretty hard, get meaningless special defense drop. Surf finishes off Gengar, which forces me into my full health Scizor with Bullet Punch, but Toxic damage puts it into the range where Bullet Punch is going to faint it. Or so I hoped. I actually get a critical hit here, which I'm not entirely sure mattered, but finishes off his Palkia, and I win that match 1-0. That was actually pretty strategic and fun. But here comes the next match against a Trick Room team with an overabundance of fighting types. And I stick with what I had in the last match. Yeah, I don't know who this guy is. He leads with his Dust Box. Brings 2 pure fighting types in the wings. And I go with what I had last time, Espeon to the wrong one. Now, I go for the Shadow Ball with the reasoning that it'll deal super effective to Dust Blocks and neutral to other things. And because it's Dust Blocks, I'm almost certain that the EVO Light because that doesn't faint it. So it gets to set up the Trick Room, and therefore would make everything it has technically outspeed whatever I've got. And somehow this Dusclops is naturally slower than my Bronco. So it heals up with the Pain Split when I set up Flex. So he switches over to his Conkeldurr, and I set it, and thanks to Trick Room I'm now faster when I set up the second screen. He goes for the Fire Punch, which is... it deals a decent amount of damage with the Reflect in place, but because he hadn't invoked Guts yet, it doesn't deal massive damage. And his Dust Offs go for the Shadow Punch, which does almost nothing with the Reflect. I Gyro Ball whatever he does, which deals almost no damage because Dust Offs is technically slower. And he gets a critical off this second Shadow Punch, which almost faints Bronze on. But I get an Earthquake off, which puts Dusclops right in just enough range that I'm able to get it with a second with another Shadow Ball. So it can't set Trick Room back up. That faints it. No more Trick Room. And I figured, and this is when I learned that his fourth Pokemon that he brought was Scrappy. When I switch to Scizor, go for the U-turn to get neutral damage. Take Scrappy down about 25%. I go into Gengar, and I end up going right into a Stab Crunch, because I had been in on Espeon, and he was going to try to hit Espeon, but Gengar lives it. It gets the defense drop. Gengar lives it because the Reflect is still up. Now he goes to his Machamp to Bullet Punch, which Gengar lives because of the Reflect, and I go for Thunder T-Bolt to get neutral damage. That's not going to miss, like Focus missed. And switch to Espeon to use Psy-Shock. Goes for the Bullet Punch to try to feint Gengar again, but doesn't work. Get the Psy-Shock off, feint Machamp, leave him with two Pokemon. One of which is burned, one of which is severely injured. And to this point, that Reflect wears off. So now, switch back to Gengar, go for the neutral Thunderbolt, which almost feints Scrappy, but leaves it able to get off another Crunch. So Gengar faints, and unfortunately I have to go back to the Scizor. And it's this point that Light Screen wears off, although Light Screen didn't do much of anything. He goes back to his Conkeldurr when I try to Bullet Punch his Scrappy. He deals a really good amount of damage, but then he goes for the Stabs, Guts, Drain Punch, which takes Scizor down to about 25%, heals most of the damage off of Conkeldurr. Switch back to Espeon. He goes for the Mach Punch, which, because I resisted, I lived, but this. I go for the Shadow Ball because he could have switched into Scrappy and Shadow Ball would have dealt damage to it, but it doesn't quite take Conkeldurr out, but it puts it in the range where burn damage is going to faint it. So now that this low HP Scrappy is his only Pokemon left, Bullet Punch is easily going to clean up the situation. So I win this one technically 3-0, but with a lot of damage on all of my Pokemon. So I'm 2 wins, 1 loss, 2 wins so far in this group of 5, and now I'm going up against someone who doesn't do Tyranitar correctly. I mean, he's got an Espeon of his own, and I never tested whether or not it had Magic Mirror or not, but same team I had before. It was Espeon and Jolteon. Now, switch to Scizor to try to U-turn the Espeon. He tries to Pin Missile my Espeon, but I dodge it anyway. Get the U-turn off. It feints his Jolteon in one hit. Then I go out to Gengar. So yeah. And he goes into a Tyranitar, which has Sandstream. And I go to Espeon to Grass Knot. And this is a surprisingly special defensive Tyranitar, because even though rock types get a 50% special defense boost in the sand, in Sandstorm, usually they don't live a Grass Knot off of a special sweeper. You get the Crunch, takes 2 Life Orb Recoil and Rocky Helmet damage, it faints Espeon, forcing me to go back into Scissor. So I was going to try to Bullet Punch Tyranitar to faint it, but he switches to his Emboar. And Bullet Punch does about 30% damage. And he goes for Heat Crash, which does, I'd say, about 75%. It does quite a bit. It doesn't outright faint. Now, for some reason I thought he'd switch into something that's not Emboar, so I Bullet Punched again, but he stayed in on Emboar and Heat Crash is going to faint Sigil. So at this point I've got Gengar and Bronzong left, which is not exactly the best things to be left in on. And I go for the Shadow Ball for neutral damage, or hopefully fainting damage on Gengar, but he switches to his Espeon, probably to Psyshock or Psychic my Gengar, but super effective, Espeon faints. And he's left with his Emboar and his Tyranitar. Now, this is the other reason why I think it's especially defensive, Tyranitar, because it lives the Shadow Ball easily. Well, not easily, but it lives the Shadow Ball and faints Gengar. So, Gengar faints, I'm forced into Bronzong. Now, Crunch is going to deal a pretty good amount of damage, but Earthquake's definitely going to faint his Tyranitar. So T-Tar faints. I didn't Gyro Ball because he could have switched into Emboar and that would have done me any good. But he goes for Heat Crash again. It deals probably about half of Bronzong's health, but Earthquake is going to be just enough damage to faint Emboar, leaving me, once again, 1-0 victory, and 3 wins in a row. Unfortunately, the next battle is going to break that streak, because I have to deal with a Suicune, a Arceus, an Uxie, and a Black Kyurem. This was a very fun match. And I don't know whether this person's a YouTuber or not, and the fact that their name is kind of gibberishy makes me think they might be a YouTuber, but I'm not sure. So I go with my standard Scissor Espeon melodic trifecta, and he's got this stuff. Suicune. I stayed in on Espeon trying to Grass Knot his Suicune. This is a Steel Arceus, so it resists the Grass Knot anyway. It takes it rather well. He sets up Calm Mind. So, yeah. I go to Scizor, and he gets a Steel-type, a +1 Steel-type Judgment off on it. Deals a good amount. I U-turn out into my Staraptor. I probably could have stayed in, or I probably could have Superpowered, but then I think I didn't want to get locked into an attack that would continually reduce my attack stat. So, go to Staraptor, get the Intimidate off on Arceus. I go for the extremely obvious close combat. He goes to his Suicune to resist it, or to basically shrug it off, because that is very little damage, comparatively. He goes for the super effective Icy Wind, which deals about 75% and slows me down. I go for the close combat again instead of switching to something to grass knot it for some reason. And he goes for the skull just to finish Staraptor off. Staraptor faints, forced back into Scizor. And for some reason, I lock myself back into U-turn after he goes for a +1 Earth Power, which almost faints Scizor, brings it into the red. But I lock myself into U-turn. I don't know why. And that takes Arceus down to rather low, but it's got Recover. I probably could have fainted it if it didn't have Recover, but yeah. So, Melodic Surfs doesn't do very much thanks to the Calm Mind. And Calm Minds again. And I just keep trying to surf things. Then he switches to his Melodic. I go back to Scizor. He uses Rest, which led me to believe that this was probably a takeoff on a Crocoon set, but I don't think I ever saw its fourth move, so I don't know if that's Sleep Talk or Calm Mind or what. But U-turn does a pretty good amount of damage. I go back to Espeon trying to Grass Knot again. He goes back to his Arceus. Doesn't do much. And a +2 Judgment is going to take out. So then, back to Scizor. Go back to Melodic, Surf again. They take the +2 Earth Power pretty well. Surf again. Takes him down to yellow. No, it's critical, so it takes him down to red. But since it didn't faint the Arceus, all that means is that he's guaranteed to recover. So, covers back up to the green. I surf again. And I think it was during either this or the next turn they switched to Oopsie to Heal Bell the sleep off of Suicune. So Surf doesn't do much to Oopsie, goes for the Heal Bell, which makes Suicune wake up. Then I think I tried to U-turn again. No, I think I just tried to Toxic. No, I tried to U-turn again on the Suicune, but it's faster. It's enough faster than Scizor that Skull takes the zero out and returns the music to normal. So back to Melodic. I go for Toxic, which is another reason why I can't actually Toxic a Steel type, which really sucks. So he goes for the Stall. It does barely anything. I can heal off that damage with lefties. Toxic heals a little bit. He just stays in. I'm not sure what he was doing, but Surf. He goes for the Skull. Probably trying to get the burn so that a lot of with his farm. I believe it was at this point that he rested again. Yeah, it was at this point that he used rest after I surfed. I think that on a critical I might have been able to take it out, but he rests again, heals the poison, heals all the damage. So pretty much nothing I just did meant anything. And I Toxic again for, I don't remember why. I think I figured they tried to heal Bell to sleep off the Suicune again, so I tried to Toxic Lucy before or after that, but instead he goes for the Thunder Wave, which at this point I don't really mind because that all that does is boost my physical defense, because a lot of people use that for the fastest Pokemon. Toxic deals some damage to Uzi, goes back to his Arceus to completely calm down again, and I try to surf. I think it deals enough damage to take him down back to the yellow, but really not very much at all. Yeah, it takes him back down to the yellow range, but it doesn't change it. When he goes back to Uzi to heal Bell, healing the top poison and sleep. As I surf again. No, I actually get paralyzed, so I can't move. Then this guy does something I wasn't expecting. He switches his Uzi toward his Black Kyurem. As I surf again. Yeah, I surf again. So, I do deal some damage to the Kyurem, but not really all that much. And the thing about Terra Volt is it negates the defense bonus that Marvel Scale gives. So, yeah. I Toxic the Kyurem. Just get a little bit more incidental damage on it, but this game's a lost cause at this point. So he finishes off Melodic with Outrage. And yeah. Lose against this guy. Oh well. So that's another 3 wins, 2 losses. Comment, rate, subscribe. I should have the next 5 videos up soon. Take care.